Hi, this is Beth from Around the Table Yarns. Tonight is Sock Club for November. I can't believe it's already November. November 2025. Tonight we are doing the second session of the Stony Stream Sock by Stephen West. That's a lot of s. The Stony Stream Sock is a really fun project that everybody who's doing it is enjoying, and I can't wait to get started and show you. All right, this is my sock so far. So far we have cast on and done a very generous ribbing, and then we're working repeats of the pattern. And the pattern is 2 rows of stockinette in the contrast color. So my main color is the dark. My contrast color is the light. You work 2 rows of the contrast color in stockinette. The first row here is just a plain knit row. And then you work rows of garter stitch in the main color. And when you work the next time of the this contrast color, you do a little cable. And these cables create the texture and this wonderful design that is just really been fun to work. So in the last session, which is on our YouTube and also on our webpage, we did the casting on, the ribbing, and the pattern. And we stopped when we got to the desired length for our leg. So people have done it at different places. I did it after 7 repeats of the pattern. So if I count up from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you work 1 row, the cable row, which is round 11 of this pattern. It's a 12 round pattern. And you get to round 11 and you stop cutting the contrast color and you're ready to work with the main yarn. So that's where we are. If you're following along on the pattern, we are at the top of page 4. And I want to just say that I did my sock and mine was very loose and very wide. And I was doing the second size, and I thought that it was too wide for my husband's foot. And so I made a decision that I do not recommend. So I just want to tell you, I decided that I would cast on for size 2, and in the pattern, you increase here in the first round and you go up like 12 stitches. And so what I did is I cast on for size 2 and then I did not increase here. And I went and I just went. So my ribbing is for size 2 and it turns out my sock is the size 1 size. And I had him try it on and it's a little bit narrow. He can get it on his foot, but it's a little bit narrow. So I do not recommend that alteration of the pattern. I think you should stick to the pattern. So I just wanted full disclosure. I just wanted to say that. So the first thing that happens when you start your heel flap is that you have to decrease the number of stitches on your needle. Now I'm doing this magic loop. You can also do it on double points or with 2 circular needles. But you want to have the first half of the stitches available to you to work back and forth on. So if you are working on double pointed needles, make sure the first half of the stitches, these will become the heel stitches, are available to you on 1 DPN. If you're doing it magic loop, it's just the first half. If you're doing it on 2 circular needles, it's the first needle. And in this round, or in this row, this is a row, we are going to work. My yarn is still attached and now it's all over my face. You're going to work across doing decreases across the row. And so it's just important to pay attention to your decreases so that you keep track of them because the decreases are done in a pattern of knit two together and then knit one and then knit two together, knit two across the row, ending if you're doing size one with a slip one or ending on size two or three with other combinations of ending. So only size one comes out exactly. Sizes two, three, and four come out with a little bit of you have to work a little bit to get to the end, but they each decrease the number of stitches around. So I'm going to knit two together, knit one, and I'm using the main color. So I'm switching to my main color yarn. I'm going to knit two together, knit one, knit two together, knit two. And then I repeat that. Now I had a little trouble getting into my knit two together because it's very firm. If you do have a little bit of trouble, I like to take my right needle and put it into the fronts of those tighter stitches and pull them forward towards me, which loosens them up and makes it possible to get into them for a knit two together a little bit easier. So knit two together, knit one, knit two together, knit two, knit two together, knit one, knit two together. That's two, together, one. So as I come to my last repeat, I've knit two together, I knit two, and then I slip the last stitch with yarn in front, and that is how each of them ends. So whatever you have between your last repeat and the last stitch, you'll do that, and then you'll bring the yarn between the needles to the front and slip the last stitch purlwise and turn your work. From that point onward, you're working garter rows. You're going to knit. So now we're at the all sizes in the middle of page 4 on the left-hand column, all sizes row 2. So it's rows, not rounds. It's a wrong side row, and you're going to knit across to the last stitch. So you're just going to work all of these stitches as a knit stitch until you get to the last stitch, and then you will slip that stitch with the yarn in front. And that means you have to move the yarn between the needles, just like we did there. And what that will do is create a lovely slipped smooth edge. Each time you work a wrong side row of this garter stitch pattern, it creates a ridge on the front side. So you'll see that when I turn this. So I'm working all the way over to the other side till I get to the very last stitch, yarn between the needles forward. So I'm bringing the yarn forward between the needles. I'm slipping that last stitch purlwise and turning. And there you can see my first garter ridge. At the base of my stitches. There we go. So you'll repeat that until you have the desired number of garter ridges. And for each of the 4 sizes, that's either 13, 15, 18, or 20. If you're making this for somebody with a higher instep, you might want to elongate the heel a little bit. So I am making this for somebody with a higher instep, and so I'm adding 4 rows or 2 more ridges. So I was supposed to do 13 ridges and I did 15 total. So I just want to tell you that that is an option for customizing the sock if you have a higher instep or a wider, if it's hard to get things on over your ankle, you could add a little bit of length right here. So that is the heel. That's the technique for doing the heel. I'm going to switch over to my other. Oh, I'm not going to completely switch over. I just want to show you what that heel looks like when you've worked it. So there you go. It's a garter heel. It has this nice smooth edge, and that's from bringing the yarn forward and slipping it each time. So now what we want to do is turn the heel and make this little trapezoid at the top. That trapezoid sticks out and allows you to turn at a 90-degree angle to make the foot of your sock turn and go the other way. So let me just demonstrate how to do that on my sample here. So turning the heel, we're going to pretend I've done all my 13 ridges. Turning the heel begins where it says heel turn row 1 on the right side. And you're going to work for your size, whatever the number is for your size. For mine, it's 15 stitches. So 15 stitches takes you 2 stitches past the middle of your current number of stitches. So currently I have 26 stitches and 15 is 2 stitches past the middle. So you work till 2 stitches past the middle. You're still working back and forth. Three, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so now you're going to do an SSK, so a decrease, losing 1 stitch here, and then knitting 1 more stitch. So slip a stitch as if to knit, slip a stitch as if to knit, put your left needle into the fronts of those 2 stitches, work them, wrap around the right needle, and bring it forward. Knit 1 more stitch and turn. Now, notice that you have 8 stitches or more stitches, but count the number of stitches you have here. If you're doing the first size, you should have 8. When you turn, this is now going to be in stockinette stitch. So when you turn, you will slip the first stitch purlwise, and then you will purl 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the purl side, when you do the decrease, you'll purl 2 together. If you have trouble getting into those stitches, I recommend pulling down with your thumb to elongate the base of those stitches. It makes it easier to get your needle in. Knit, purl 2 together, and then purl 1 more stitch. And let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have the same number of stitches in the wings on both sides. Turn, slip the first stitch purlwise to the right hand needle. In other words, slip it without working it. And then you will knit across starting with the stitch that you just decreased on. So you're going to knit to 1 stitch before the gap. And what's the gap? There's the gap. The gap is where you did the decrease and the knit 1 and turned the last time. So there it is, and slipped 1. When you get to 1 stitch before the gap, you're going to do another SSK. So slip a stitch knitwise, slip a second stitch, the stitch on the other side of the gap knitwise, put your left needle into the fronts of those 2 stitches, wrap around the right needle and bring that new stitch forward. There's your SSK. Knit one more. Now we have 6 stitches left. So each time we do that, it uses up 2 stitches. Slip one and work across to the gap. This time when we get to the gap, we're going to purl 2 together across the gap. You can feel the gap coming. You can also look down and see it. And then you're going to put your right needle into the fronts of those 2 stitches purlwise and work them together like that. Work one more stitch, double check. You should have the same number of stitches here. Whoops. Was I out of the range there? Go back and do my purl 2 together. So here's my gap. And I'm going to purl 2 together across the gap. Purl one more stitch. And then my remaining stitches on this side should be the same as my stitches in the wings on this side. So I have 6 stitches here, I have 6 stitches here, and then you turn. So you keep doing that. And again, I didn't do my whole garter heel. I'm just demonstrating the technique for doing the heel turn. So back to my other side. Once you have completed all of the stitches, in the case of the small size or the smallest size, you will have a knit one at each end when you finish. In some of the sizes, you may end on the SSK or the purl 2 together. So that's okay. But at the end of it, you should have worked all of the stitches or decreased all of the stitches, and resulting in the correct number of stitches on the needles. So in this case, I did, again, the smallest size. I have 16 stitches on the needle, or you would have 18, 20, or 22. Okay, so now we're going to reposition the beginning of our round, and we're going to start working in rounds again and pick up and place markers for our gusset. So I want to make sure I have my contrast. So here's my contrasting color. And now I'm going to rejoin that after I work the first half of the stitches on my needle. So the beginning of the round comes in the middle of the heel. So that should be 8 stitches over for me. So I start with the main color and I work 8 stitches. So I just knit 8 stitches. This is the top of page 4 on the right-hand side under the word gusset, under round 1. Right side, using your main color, you'll knit half of the stitches of the heel. And that will get you across to the halfway point. I'm going to place a marker here for my beginning of round, and then I'm going to change to my contrast color. When I change in the middle of a row like this, I want to actually take my new yarn and lay it from the side I'm working from to the other side. So I'm just laying it across between my needles. I've got my thumb on it to secure it. And then I just continue working with it. 1, 2, and this is going to take me across to the end of my heel turn stitches. And then I'm going to turn and pick up my gusset stitches. So I'm going to turn here and pick up the gusset. Okay, so I've got half of my stitches done with the main color and half of my stitches done with my contrast color. And now I'm going to turn the work 90 degrees to pick up stitches along my garter stitch heel. And I find this pretty straightforward. If I look for the V of each of those slip stitches, and all I'm going to do is take my needle and slip it under that V. So from the right side of the fabric towards the inside of the fabric, I slip the right hand needle underneath the two stitches. There's no left hand needle in play. I wrap around and then pull the new stitch back through. The next V is there. Now they're a little close. You might want to put your finger on it to hold it. I want to put my needle tip under both legs, wrap around, and pull it through to the front. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I had 15, 14, 15. Then you're recommended to place a marker. So I'm placing another circular marker there. And then remember we finished on round 11. Round 11 is the round that had the cables in it. So round 12 of the stitch pattern is just a plain knit row with the contrast color. So once you get to there, you actually just continue with the contrast color across these stitches. And I would actually make this the turning point for your magic loop, or your double pointed needles. It will make it easier to make that. So I may not keep that marker there, because if it's the turning point for my magic loop, I won't need a marker there. I'll just need to remember that this is the beginning of the top of my stitch. So then we just work across those stitches, which is actually in pattern for the Stony Stream pattern. It'll focus when I stop moving. But I'm not doing anything extraordinary here. I'm just working across those stitches. When you get to the other side of the instep stitches, the top of the foot stitches, and there's more of these than there were of the bottom stitches, because there's should be, that you haven't decreased any on the top. When you get to the end, you'll place another marker, or if you're doing magic loop or double points or whatever, this could also be the other side of a loop. So I'm going to pull my stitches into place. I'm going to pull my needle out and turn. So I don't really need to place a marker here, because it's going to be the other side of my magic loop. So there's where my end is. It's a little awkward looking, but there's the other side of my magic loop here at the other end of my instep. And now I need to pick up the same number of stitches So I want to pick up 15 here. I'm going to start right at the edge and pulling firmly so that there's not a big gap there. 1, 2, 3. Again, going under those V's on the edge from the front side of the fabric to the back, from the right side of the fabric to the wrong, from the public side of the fabric to the private, however you want to call it. I'm going to pick up all the stitches from there back to my heel. There's my 15. And when I continue across these 8 stitches and I get to that yellow marker, I'll be back at the beginning of my round. What did I knit with? Oh, I picked up the wrong place. All right, I'm going to fix that and I'll come back. Okay, I fixed my knitting with the tail mistake. Here I am knitting across the final 8 stitches back to the marker. So this marker is going to stay in place, but I'm probably going to get rid of the other marker because it's where I'm going to be turning my work on the needles. So now if you'd like to, you can tuck this tail in so it's on the wrong side of the fabric. And then the next round is not the contrast color, it is the main color. So now I've completed round 1. I've done all of the parts of round 1, which they have in a sort of a large paragraph at the top right-hand side of page 4 in the pattern. So now, depending on your size, you're going to work sizes 1 and 3 is one set of instructions, and sizes 2 and 4 are another set of instructions for the gusset. And I'm working on size 1, as I said, so although, to be fair, I am also doing the number of decreases that you need for size 2. So I could just follow size 2. So I want to just show a little bit of detail here of what I do to keep track of things. So I want to point out the things that you need to keep track of in this. This is again the top of page 4. And just to point out, in round 2, you're changing color. So I highlighted that. And then you're doing a decrease. So my green is the decrease before my instep stitches. So if you're looking at your sock and you've got your instep stitches here and then the other stitches down below with your marker here, you've got half of the total number that you're going to want and something more than half here on each side. You're here at the beginning of the round, which is the middle of the heel, and you're going to work up to here in the main, sorry, am I going in the right direction? Yes, main color. And before you get to this instep, whether you have a marker there or you're changing your needles, you're going to do a decrease of knit 2 together before that instep. And then you're going to work the instep stitches. In this case, it's going to be the slip 2 with yarn in back, knit 8, slip 2 with yarn in back, which is part of the pattern that we were doing previously. And you'll do that across the top of the stitches. And then you'll come to the other side of the instep and you'll do another decrease right here and then work back to here. And then round 3, You are still in the main color, but this time it's the purl. So we all remember that we had to go from the knit row to the purl row in the pattern, and there is no decrease in round 3. And then round 4 is a decrease, and you're still in the main color and you're still doing the pattern, again, the purl. And then you do another decrease. And then round 5 is no decreases, still in the main color and the pattern again. So remember that it's a 4-row pattern with the knit first and then the 3 garter or the 3 reverse stockinette, I guess, really, um, rows. So here they are. I didn't highlight this one yet. And then you change to the contrast color. So he has written out all of the steps that you need, but there's a lot of information in each of these rows, and it could be really helpful to go through it with your highlighter to identify where the pattern rows are. That's what I'm using the pink for. And then where your decrease rows are, rounds, and where you change color. So I've got my main color is the darker blue and my contrast color is the gray. So I just want to point out that to really go through this and not miss a step, you can read through, it's 21 rows or 20, however many rows, depending on which size you're doing, but it's roughly about 21 rows. And it will be worth your time to go through each of these rounds and pay attention. Are you on a pattern round? Are you on a main color round? Are you on a decrease round? The decrease rounds alternate with the non-decrease rounds. And then the patterns are the same as they were before, 4 rounds of the main color, 2 rounds of the contrast color, and then that repeats. But where the decreases happen is every other round, starting with round 2. So let's just do a decrease round with the pattern, and then that will be us for the night. So I'm changing color. So I'm finding my main color under here. I'm swapping it out and knitting this next stitch. Now it looks a little loose because it was just added there. So you can just give it a little tug underneath to tighten up that stitch. And then we will knit across all the stitches until we get to 2 stitches before the turn. And we'll notice that I still have a marker there, but I'm going to get rid of it. So we get to 2 stitches before the turn, and this is going to be a knit 2 together. So there I am. I'm going to knit 2 together and then reposition my needles. So I turn, push my, just lost that marker. I'll never see it again. It just went under the radiator. I'll never see it again unless the cat gets it out for me. So I reposition my needles, pull the back needle, ready to go. And then I don't know if you noticed as you were doing your rounds, but you knit across, you slip the ones that are not in. So I always thought of these V's, that the edges of the V's are where you do your knit 8. So it became much easier as we did the pattern for me to remember where I slipped and where I did my knit stitches in the main color. So you slip the contrast color, and then where the V starts is where you start knitting. I want to leave a little bit of pull there. So we're back to that pattern. I missed our pattern for a minute. So now I've done my 8 stitches, and now I'm going to slip the 4 in the middle. And then I get back to the next V. I strand along the back of that nice and loose. So again, kind of pulling it down to make a nice loose strand. And then I knit my 8 again. And you're going to do that to the other side of the instep. So there's my 8. There's my slip 4. There's my stretch to have a nice loose float. And then I should work, there should be 2 left on my needle, and I will slip those. Slip, slip, and turn, or change needle, however you're doing it. When I turn here, I'm again at the beginning or at the following my instep. So we're going to do a SSK here. And I'm not going to knit with the tail of my, whoop, sorry. So I've turned, I've positioned my heel stitches back on the needle. I want to make sure that I'm working still with my main color. And I'm stranding it past those 2 stitches, so I don't want to pull it too firmly here as I normally would. I want to leave a little bit of looseness there. And this is going to be an SSK. So slip 1, slip another one, knitwise, put your needle in front and pull it through. And then you're working to the beginning of the round, and then we'll do round 3. So that is it for how to do this heel. Those are all the steps you need. I do highly recommend using highlighters on your pattern and reading it through. I think once you've done that, you'll kind of get the sense of the pattern, where it repeats and where it changes and where you need to be paying attention. The next time is on December 1st, Monday, December 1st, and we will be doing the toe. So you should work through all of the gusset and all of the foot to the end of the foot where you're ready to change color and just work in your main color for the toe of this sock. So that's the Stony Stream sock to here. I'm really pleased with how mine's coming out, and I hope you all are too. I just wanted to say that we have picked the next sock club project after this, and I wanted to pull it up. Of course, I didn't leave it ready on my computer. So the first sock of the new year, which I think will start on January 5th, is going to be the rye sock from Tin Can Knits. And good news, the rye sock from Tin Can Knits is a free pattern. So we'll be able to share the pattern and look at it. I'm just going to go. And there's some options. Can everybody see the rye sock pattern up on the screen? Okay, so what makes the rye sock kind of neat is that it is adorned with this nice ridging of garter stitch. So it's worked in the round, and it means that there's actually a section of purling every other round to create that garter stitch ridging. But it is considered a beginner level sock. There are DK and worsted weight versions of this sock. So they're all from Tin Can Knits. They're all free, and it's either the worsted weight, the DK, or the fingering weight. any one will be acceptable, but I may be using one or the other. I'm probably going to use the DK weight. I may use the worsted weight, but these socks will be, this will be the first of the new year with Sock Club. So that's it. That's all the good stuff. Any questions? Okay,
Nope.
so our next meeting is to do the toe. If you have questions in the meantime, please get in touch with me at info@aroundthetable.yarns.com or 216-230-9224 is the shop number. You can leave a voicemail and we get those by email. I'm happy to answer questions, or if you are able to come in and we can work out any problems that you're having. And then we will be meeting again on Monday, December 1st. And this video should go up shortly on YouTube and on our webpage. And then we should be starting Sock Club again in January, on January 5th, with the Rye socks from Tin Can Knits. So thank you all for coming tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing your finished socks.